basically a phenomenon. Is basically a phenomenon that doesn't pertain to tourism only, but most of the industries where you have a high fragmentation of the supply side, you see a quick propagation of multi-sided platform models. And as a result of this structuring of the industry, what we find is a virtual monopoly on market intelligence by these platforms. Basically, the cause being a situation of information asymmetries between supply and demand, and more worrying, the emergence, the stabilization of business models by platforms, which are based on creating and exploiting information biases. One example, what I find quite illustrative is this is a user interface developed by Booking.com for hotels. This is a visualization allegedly helping an individual hotel to decide their pricing strategy for the next 2 weeks by comparing with the pricing strategy of competitors in the competitive set. Quite often, if not all the time, this kind of visualization, this kind of decision support is creating some stress with the individual hotelier, strangely making him always observe that some competitors are bringing down their prices in the future. The ulterior motive one could suspect, and this is why we would call it an information bias, is that the individual hotelier is led to believe that he should lower his price and put some allotments on the Booking.com channel rather than to sell directly. Now, this is quite old, but I find it quite illustrative. If we now look at the DMOs or the travel offices in particular, this is a visualization produced by Google 10 years ago. I couldn't find any more recent heat maps. What it shows here is that in the purchasing process, before the very decision of purchasing, the respective influence of different information sources on the decision making. You see that on the top left, online search, not surprisingly, has a strong influence on the choice of product or choice of destination. Quite to the contrary, bottom right side, one sees that DMOs seldom have an influence on the traveler's decision to choose the product or to choose the destination. Here, it's a representation of the raw data, the raw booking data that we are producing with the technology partner here. These are clearly purchasing behavior data, or what one calls information primitives. Let me comment some elements on this data set. You can see that typically these booking data provide you information about the origin of the customer, whether it's the country of origin, but even more precisely the zip code in case of domestic travelers. Also, third column, the type of product chosen, whether it's a simple plot in the camping site or if it's a mobile home. To the right of this data set, you can also see one quite strategic information, the distribution channel chosen by the customer for making it purchase. And last but not least, probably the most crucial data for observing customer behavior, it's what we call the booking window, which is the span between the booking date and the check-in date. Now, why am I emphasizing this booking window is when we look at large data sets. I'm going to show you the example of we compiled booking data for camping sites around La Rochelle, and we compared 2019 and 2020 booking patterns. What this slide shows, it's in French, but it's quite self-explanatory, I would think, is that the large bulk of the bookings come from a radius around the destination, around La Rochelle, which is within 200 kilometers, which will give you, in the perspective of helping you make decisions or adjustments as to how, what are the segments of origin on which you want to focus your promotion. These are quite explicit information. Here we see that almost half of the bookings come from within 200 square kilometers. And I want to oppose this data to some illustrations which are actually, and I'm quite sure it is the case in other countries, or what is the actual promotion or marketing strategy of DMOs. Here we have two cases. The one to the left is the regional level DMO on the region in where La Rochelle is, which is doing some promotion in the Paris subway. Here I have itemized the cost of such a communication strategy. You can see that per station and per week, the amount budgeted is quite significant. And of course, this is the subway. That means this is Paris. So we are allotting a serious amount of money and resources to promote our destination towards a segment of origin, which, as the data show, is not the key source of reservations. To the right may be more striking because, as always, in terms of communication material, in terms of communication quality, DMOs are obviously working with the best communication agencies. Here we have an example, which is a TV promotion campaign of Réunion Island, which is part of the French territory in the Indian Ocean. Here we can see that obviously this is on the French TV. So the target market is metropolitan France. But it was, the campaign was scheduled on December, in that particular case, December 2018, whilst the data show that the booking window for metropolitan French going into Réunion Island is in October. So here we have another clear case of, I would say, misallotment of valuable resources for promoting one's destination and one's product. Now, if I want to make a quick if I want to quickly go back to a modelization of what the DMO's role should be, it is obviously centered around compiling data and focusing on collecting and processing real-time data so as to use this information for anticipating and decision-making.
Dr. Beal, just want to remind you that you have 2 minutes before the
Yes, I have the timer on, so I'm going to accelerate, but that should be okay. Thank you, Zoe. Now, to be more specific about how an issue it is to achieve demand intelligence at DMO level, there's the issue of real-time data observation, but there's also the issue of designing what are the most accurate decisions to implement. This is another illustration. This is the real data we're collecting and how, when it is turned into a proper decision support, this would visually show the DMO useful information about the booking trends. Here in that particular case, it shows the DMO that the pricing strategy for the hotels in the destination is too cheap. So the booking trend is going quick, more quick than it should be going. So that's a strong recommendation for lowering one's price. The last point, I'm going to go extremely quickly. We use data with a Swiss partner, the same type of data, campsites, booking, during last year's summertime. We've been observing French presidents' public addresses in terms of lockdown or end of lockdown, marked in red or in green here. And we've been making the assumption that basically a booking would be the decision to, a booking made at one particular date had some certain probability of surviving until the check-in date. And we've been looking at what are the external factors, the exogenous determinants for a booking to either survive until check-in or to die before the check-in. But that's only one example of many other possibilities of exploiting this massive booking data for research purpose. Thank you very much, Zoe.
Natalie, do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you so much. So we had a few comments, remarks, or suggestion, reaction to your presentation, Luc. And my role today is to come towards the audience at the end of your presentation to see the comments and on maybe ask for some more remarks. So we had the first comment by Sharon Rees, saying that in Puerto Rico, Airbnb has been very well received and compared to hotels is much cheaper. The problem is that they are being located in residential areas, which has brought serious situation as there's no control, such as in hotels. So this is a first reaction to your presentation. And we have a second reaction from David Graham, saying 3,000 euros per week at the metro in Paris. Wow. Would the TV ad in December plant the thinking for bookings, January, February, when you are thinking of booking for October? So we have a question about maybe the dates, the channels, and we also have from the way maybe the avenues of research. What would you do with further research concerning this topic? Do you plan to collect data post-COVID to compare the differences?
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your feedback. The first reaction was specific to Airbnb in Puerto Rico. I must confess, I don't know the destination of Puerto Rico. I am not surprised that Airbnb as a distributor would diffuse itself very quickly. It would be interesting to see whether the supply of alternative accommodation like hotels, for example, is sufficient in front of the demand. So is Airbnb a response to a scarcity of supply? Not surprisingly, the pricing is attractive. That doesn't surprise me. What I hear is that Airbnb, from the lodger's point of view, doesn't grant much flexibility to the lodger in terms of pricing strategy. So one can only assume that in specific destination, Airbnb might have some penetration strategies, so to speak, where the pricing strategy would be one of the key instrument for penetrating quickly. Also, I'm not surprised about what you mentioned in terms of it's well received because you have plenty of choice. But on the other hand, I don't know what specifically you're referring to, but it's quite typical to hear about lodgers or even tenants complaining about this and that. This is basically the limit of what this middle person, the platform, the limit of the responsibility that this platform is willing to take. And this is the whole confusion. I didn't elaborate on that, but for me, a DMO is by nature a trusted third party. It is the actor that is in the best position to defend the interest of the stakeholders at destination, be it lodgers, but also inhabitants as well. Whilst a platform, they take their margin, and there's not many evidence about their long-term commitment to sustainability of destinations. I don't know if my feedback is in line with your own observations. David, yeah, 3,000 per train station is quite expensive. It's not all the train stations. These are those with the highest traffic, as I understand. You commented about the timing of the TV campaign for Réunion. Maybe I was not very clear. The booking in October on 2018 was identified as the booking window, meaning that the data show that it is in October that the most decisions to book for a stay into Réunion Island are made by French metropolitan. Henceforth, having TV campaign 2 months later, it shows a poor planning capacity. I don't know if you want to elaborate, if we want to interact more on that, David. I'm available, of course, so we can discuss that further as long as I can provide useful insights. And Zoe, you were asking whether we're still collecting post-COVID data. Yes, we are indeed. Well, these data were not collected for the purpose of research. The data are being collected by the technology company for their own business strategy. They are offering services to lodgers federations, but also to DMOs. They're providing them decision support systems and user decision support systems for using real-time data about where the guests come from. Do the guests this year book later or sooner than last year? Do they book a different product, etc.? That's the general philosophy of that company's business model. And this is what's particularly interesting for research purpose. Now, one update is that at the time we were doing this research about COVID, the company had a database of 200 camping resorts, mostly on the western coast of France. And now I was discussing with the founder yesterday, we are getting close to 700 camping resorts nationwide. Out of 8,000 nationwide, so we're reaching like 10% representativeness ratio, if you wish. One thing needs to be noted is that the reason why they got an interest into camping first and not hotels is that, and I'm sure it would not surprise the people around the table, the hotels, and especially independent hotels, have a quite moderate mastering of information system on one thing. And also we find them, at least in France, very reluctant to collaborate with their peers in terms of exchanging strategy and information, which is why Booking.com is thriving so much in such an environment. I mean, the information asymmetry is being amplified by this reluctance of actors to share information. Whilst on the other hand, camping resorts in France are very structured. The local federations play a very important role into sourcing the proper information systems, negotiating prices, and the average manager for camping resorts is more tech savvy, is more IT savvy. So this was a huge opportunity to quickly penetrate this subsector of the lodgers in France. And we find, by comparing data about booking trends with hotels, we find that the booking patterns, the booking data we collect on campings are quite representative of the overall trends for each of the destinations.
Thank
so
you.
This is quite an exciting
I know it's quite frustrating, but we have to schedule and choose a presentation, but we'll be very interested in your avenues of research, and congratulations for this presentation and all the data you collected and you will treat during the pandemic or during the post-pandemic times. So I think it's quite interesting, and it's interesting for many destinations, many DMOs. So I think we should talk later about your next steps in the research. So Zoe, let you introduce the second presenter.
Yes, thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Dr. Beal, for your presentation. Our second speaker today has over 19 years of experience in the financial industry as a senior executive and is currently an assistant professor in marketing and management at the Department of Business, Tourism, and Entrepreneurship at UAGM. Dr. Flecha holds a bachelor's degree in marketing, an MBA in international trade, a master's in digital analytics, and a DBA in marketing. He's an active researcher with about 15 publications in high-level scientific journals. His work have been published in the Journal of Business Research, European Business Review, Journal of Knowledge Management, and Global Business Review, among many others. His line of research is focused on marketing communication with emphasis on digital content marketing. He also specializes in other topics related to macro marketing, including political marketing. Dr. Flecha is here today to present his research called Millennials and Snapchat, Self-Expression Through Its Use and Its Influence on Purchase Motivation. Welcome, Dr. Jose Flecha.
Hi, and thank you. Good morning to everyone. My name is Jose Flecha. It's my pleasure to present our research study of Millennial Snapchat, the self-expression through the use and this influence and purchase motivation with the co-authors, Dr. Maria Santos, that she's here in the audience, Dr. Evelyn Lopez, Dr. Virgin Dones, and our former student, Alberto Vega. So to introduce our, excuse me, key here. Okay, to introduce our topic is important. Our research programs, the some studies reflect that the millennial need society level for different variety issues and which impact direct on the consumer behavior. Nowadays, the proliferation of the new social media platforms like Snapchat, the content management is focused on visual content interaction as the way word we delete after the expression. It's important that the Snapchat is in the Snapchat website promote a value for the users, have a great spread for the self-expression. To continue with the introduction, it's very the social platforms, the new social media, the large amount of content of the user as a post has reduced the attention for the consumer at less of 5 minutes. So the content management every day requires more personalization and provide tools to keep to the user connecting, interacting with diversity of content. Different studies detail the popularity of the new social medias like Snapchat are focused on interactive communication, which cause a link with the brand through the emotional effects and reliability, ease, interaction, and empowerment. Very important data about the Snapchat platform in 2020. The platform managed 306 million people that use Snapchat every day. It's very important that Snapchat appeals millennials and Generation Z, is 75% of the users. On average, the Snapchaters spend 30 minutes on Snapchat every day, and in 2017, 2018, the platform received 5% more likes or more click to advertising to produce the call to the action to respond to the very different marketing efforts. And Snapchat ensure the values for the user and provision a good platform to the self-expression. This is move on to our research objective. Our research objective for this study is how the individual expression of the millennial with their social environment promote the self-expression of Snapchat. And the second one is how the self-expression of Snapchat achieve a positive impact to the use of Snapchat, and how the different ways for using Snapchat impact on the purchase motivation. To continue, our studies is supporting for two very important, very important papers. First is using the bottom research that provide the research agenda to understand the millennials in the social media, and use the theory of user gratification theory. Cards and other authors develop the user gratification theory, and the theory proposed that people actively seeking the media content in order to satisfy certain individual needs, where the media produce a gratification effect to the certain psychological and psychosocial need experienced by the audience through the use for the use of the media. It's important note that the research must understand to apply the theory to important what is the use and what is the gratification, because in the use analyze the behavior across the media, and the gratification were analyzed what this medium exceed the expectation of the user through the satisfaction of needs and combines behind interaction. However, some authors established that to provide clear result, you need use two factors. One, what is the factor drive to the use of the object, and second one is concentrated in one demographic specific group. The old literature review it established the most important gratification that provide the media is the self-expression. But the evolution of to understand or apply the user gratification theory, Sunar Imperos in 2023 offers an excellent framework to analyze the social media and establish 4 new forms of gratification. It's important to understand that these forms of gratification provide other gratification in this factor. The first factor is modality-based gratification. That's refer a different method of the content presentation which appeal a different aspect of the human perceptual system. The second one is the agency-based gratification that allows to everyone to be agent to source on information. This type of gratification can figure as instead highly motivated or involve the users. The third is interactive-based gratification, is the ability to allow the user to make change in the content in the medium in the real time. In the fourth is navigability-based gratification, is the capacity to allow the movement to the user to the medium and the key factor to the user experience. To continue our study revision, Bolton established to understand the young consumer, like millennials, you need to understand 2 main factors about the self-expression. The first is the stable factors. The stable factor is the personal values, personality, traits, preference, age, elements of the play important to the role to use the social media, and how to be this stable factor is how the millennial like to be perceived in the social environment. But Bolton established that this stable factor become a dynamic factor, as this will be observed for the use of social media. Therefore, the users will take away the wish to be perceived in the social environment, move on to transmit in the social media your life, your experience, and different or do all daily basis interaction. Snapchat is a social media platform that use the ephemeral marketing. And the ephemeral marketing, or the study of the ephemeral marketing, highlight the opportunities and interaction and offer the ephemeral content increase rapidly in the social media strategy for the marketing effort, because move on faster to the consumers to acquire product, because it's about the perception of scarcity. However, the scientific study for ephemeral marketing is very limited. And in 2021, some studies were established that the implication are unclear regarding consumer behavior. Some studies
Just reminding you that you have 3 minutes left.
Okay. So the implication is there's some studies of the female market content is a powerful to bring about the action to the participant and contribute. To continue the presentation, the other variables that presented is for understand Snapchat use. The Snapchat use understand from the sharing, participation, and intensity of use. The sharing is the main form of the millennials access the brand content. The participation is what is the millennial active contribute to the marketing content. And the intensity of use is refers a user involvement with the brand trigger to the social media environment. It's important to understand the use of the social media is the most variable analyzed in the literature of the social media. The purchase motivation is present some studies of the social media and the use gratification theory provide important facts about the purchase motivation in the different marketing strategy. This is the Bolton research framework that adapt to our study at the stable factor, move on to the dynamic factor, to share and to participate, and move on to the intent purchase motivation. This is our 6 hypothesis to respond our research. And our method is a quantitative survey technique, a cross-sectional technique of the millennial Snapchat user resident in Puerto Rico, and using a structural correlation modeling to respond the answer. The research instrument is based on relevant literature and the old recommendation to develop a scale for scenario pairs. The old data is 454 young millennials consumers. 61 are women and 38% has men, and the 47% of the participants were university students. The old validity and reliability is supported for the normal, and all the alpha coefficient, composability, and the average values in the old construct provide a good reliability. Our results reflect that it is a high impact in the old proposed hypothesis. If you like, if you see in our results, is very strong impact, specifically the stable factor to the dynamic factor, and to move on to the share and participate, and the purchase motivation is a very increased in very interesting in the intensity of use of the. In our conclusion, our story reflect 2 important gratification I identified. First, for the cell expression, identify base modality gratification and base modality gratification. This is a direct implication, but the theory proposed to persuade and seeking attitude. The Snapchat turned the user to protagonist and content generator. And these important facts, a Snapchat communicative model like to the highlight gratification needs of the millennials. Is a move on direct to the ephemeral content. The ephemeral content explain the agency engagement gratification, that the purchase motivation come to the behavioral response, and therefore the Snapchat maintain higher purchase motivation in the social media because are engaged and obtain gratification of participate in the brand ephemeral content and facilitate the need to evaluate product more quickly. And very important to the marketing practice, the consumer behavior as the new communication trend and forcing the advertising to adapt the new strategic reality. And Snapchat meet the young individuals, but offering ephemeral content at short duration. To understand the marketing of the social network and the limited attention span are characterized of the millennial, and the ephemeral content and the short duration combined is become a big element to attract the user attention and thus crucial success to the advertising strategy. And they use a ephemeral content provided the brand to meet and connect to the consumer. And this approach is very crucial to the new strategy to attract the consumer. And the studies suggest that the communicative model has changed. And the reaction to the Facebook and Instagram for maintain the users or the competitive is very a competitive, important issue for the social media platform.
Dr. Fletcher.
All right.
Thank you for your presentation. We have to, we're on a schedule, so a couple questions. Natalie.
Yeah, we have questions. Thank you so much for this interesting presentation. We had some remarks or need for clarification during your presentation. First of all, about the operationalization of your research. Someone noticed that you had more women than men responding to your survey. Do you know why? And what is your analysis on this particular point?
Okay, and your question refer about the participant for more women than
men completed your survey. Do you know why?
Yeah. Okay. I use a internet survey about the one by email and the social media and other social media, and of the woman is more participating is related about the Snapchat user statistics, because the Snapchat user statistics say that women is more user, is congruent about the users. In the and these studies we conduct in 2016. And in this moment, the statistics of the Snapchat say the 60% of the users of Snapchat are women. So the participation is
corresponding to the general population.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. We had another group of questions about Snapchat compared to other media like TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. Do you confirm your results in other platforms?
Okay, no. No, it's only centered in Snapchat, but it's important to understand that TikTok is currently, and the study has published, but our study is extended, and for the next month we publish or present the result about the TikTok, the female issues about TikTok. The result is very interesting.
Yeah, we had other questions about the generations. Why focusing on millennials and not the youngest generation? We had also remarks concerning cultural nuances in the finding, because I think your field was based on Puerto Rico, and maybe can we transfer or validate your study in other contexts, etc. And we had also a remark from Dr. Juan Carlos Sosa Varela saying how this framework could be used in a tourism context. What will the practitioners learn from your study? So we have a lot of good elements. I think it's still an ongoing process right now.
A very interesting fact in the tourism industry. In 2000, at the beginning of the Snapchat, I attended the social media marketing work. I attended a very interesting, important executive marketing for the Europe hotels consortium, and the marketing say Snapchat no appeal about my target, my consumer, my market segmentation, but I use Snapchat to add value to for my consumers. And very interesting. She said, but it's very incredible how many consumers increase the booking only to the using interactive content, very plating and fun, because the important fact about this platform is that the brands connect different frames and user argument reality, and the consumers sharing to the other social media platform and increase the engagement from for the impact other consumers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. It's very interesting, and I see the use of Snapchat should imply the practitioners, and we can see an evolution concerning the tourism industry to seduce, to attract, or maybe to manage a new category of consumers. So it's very interesting. And Daryl May said that, left a comment here about the education of the younger ones. So it's very interesting. And I think we will be glad to know more about your study and all your results, which are really important for the community. So thank you so much, Dr. Fleischer. The way I let you introduce our last presenter.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Flecha, and thank you, Natalie. Our third presenter today, it's a new partner and joins us from Sheffield, Hallam University in United Kingdom, where she's a senior lecturer of tourism management at Sheffield Business School. Her research focuses on adventure tourism and outdoor recreation, including the experiences of outdoor adventure participants, gendered experiences, adventure media, equality and diversity in the outdoors, employment and governance of the outdoor sector, and research methodologies. Dr. Adele Doran will be presenting her research, Women's Outdoor Adventure Experiences on Instagram, exploring user-generated content. Welcome, Dr. Doran.
Come on.
Adele?
Hi, yeah, it's
Hi.
sorry, it's
No, it's okay. So
not
we see you. We see you.
It's not sharing my video, and now it is, but it stopped sharing the screen. So let me apologies. Hopefully that. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, sorry about that. I've got two screens and it wasn't connecting to the other, it seems. So hi, everyone, and thank you, Zoe, for introducing me. The idea behind exploring women's representation on adventure media came about when I came across, this isn't going to work, let me see. Okay, when I came across this image. So this image, I took this photo outside of a very popular outdoor clothing and equipment store in the UK. And I couldn't understand why women were depicted wearing a typical feminine color of pink, holding flowers and walking to their family in a tent, whereas the men were depicted climbing hard, mountain biking, and even when they're walking, they look quite determined and they're by themselves in this natural environment. So then I did a little bit more digging to to sort of get behind this, to find out, what is this a common practice? And whilst there was numerous examples online, this was by far my favourite one. And this is of a very expensive cycling brand. And I thought to myself, what on earth would, I'm a cyclist, I've never seen women cycling without their top on, and nor could I ever imagine a woman deciding that they would buy these cycling shorts based on an image like that. But instead it was I felt as if the image was really there to sexualize the women for someone else's gratification. So I took these images to my co-authors and we decided for this to be the focus of this research. So originally we were interested in what how organisations and the mainstream adventure media were positioning and representing women. But after doing a review of literature, we decided to look at, well, how are actually women representing themselves, self-representing themselves? And we looked at user-generated content on Instagram. So just to give you some more background context, so previous research does confirm those images, and it has found that outdoor media reinforces traditional gender roles, and it can dissuade women from participating in outdoor activity. Now, the research actually does span over 15 years, but what was reported 15 years ago is being reported now. So what we're seeing is adventure media being stuck in some sort of time warp and not catching up with actually what everyday women are doing. So for example, women are shown as, when women are shown as active participants of the outdoors, they are generally professionals, and their physical accomplishments are often either downplayed or they're depicted as the endeavours of unique women. By comparison, everyday men achieving goals in the wilderness are depicted. Women were most commonly shown in advertisements for holiday destinations and clothing brands, but even when they're in advertisement for clothing and equipment, they were shown just holding it rather than actually physically doing the activity that you would use the equipment in. Women were rarely depicted alone in the wilderness, actively participating or being dirty or unkempt. Instead, they were often shown walking with their family or passively looking at a view. And also when engaged in the activity, they were placed behind men in the images, and they were given the role of novice, requiring a teaching or assistance from a man, indicating that the male was more important than the leader in that scenario. Adventure tourism ads put the wilderness and adventure activity in the backdrop and place women at the front, but being more interested in the luxurious side of adventure travel, and therefore play into stereotypical roles regarding women and consumerism. Adventure tourism destinations use images that imply women prefer a relaxed, calm atmosphere, and if engaging in a challenging activity, they tend to be with their male partner. So this implies that if women were to choose an outdoor activity, they would want to do something quite calm, but if they were to do something more demanding, they would only feel safe doing it with a man. And finally, the wilds was shown as a means to escape from domestic responsibilities for women, whereas for men, they were promised the challenge of physically demanding recreation. So whilst these studies do show how mainstream adventure media positioned the outdoors as not really a space for women and could put women off from going into outdoor spaces, women are turning to social media in order to challenge these hegemonic discourses. And specifically in the study by Weatherby and Vidder, that looked at female hikers in America, they're wanting to change the identity of the American wilderness from being masculine, and also using social media for communities as a source of empowerment for themselves and for others. So whilst posts of women's experiences in the wilderness challenge these stereotypes in the landscape, in these outdoor and wilderness landscapes, it can be argued that without tourism's promotion of these spaces as being extraordinary and masculine, women's performances within these landscapes would lack the social significance or challenge the wilderness as gendered. And Zink and Zane remind us that media images do not just reflect reality, they actively shape the way reality is perceived and understood. So magazines, films and social media provide really important points of reference regarding what's appropriate behaviour, particularly for those that are new to adventure activities. So it's really important for us to understand what the relationship is between media and outdoor adventure activities. Now, sport media is being really scrutinised through a gendered lens, and there's lots of literature on that, whereas there is very little on outdoor activities. There have been numerous calls for research on adventurous women's use of social media and how it influences behaviour, norms and participation. And in this study, we tried to attempt to answer some of these calls. We do so by looking at Instagram. So human engagement with the natural world is increasingly being mediated with digital devices. And we've seen this expanding body of literature that's coming about, which is looking mainly at two sides of this nature digital debate. The first side being that new media technologies are disrupting our connection with nature, or that they're providing a go-between and they're enabling us to enhance our learning of nature. But Stinson argues that we need to ignore that debate because it assumes that wilderness is a fixed ontological reality and that is separate from humanity, and that we can simply connect or disconnect from nature. And instead, wilderness should be understood as a social construct that is continually being recreated, including in online context. So people are participating in the actual wilderness, but at the same time, they're producing digital content in the form of videos, blogs, photos, etc., and sharing these on social media. Others are then consuming this, and therefore, through this process, our perceptions of nature and the wilderness is continually being recreated and changing, and it's not static. So therefore, there's a bit of a blurring of lines between actual and virtual wilderness, and it's creating a new ontology of wilderness as a digiplace. So social science researchers, like we've heard today, are increasingly using online interactions as sources of understanding subpopulations of our society, and we have specifically looked at Instagram for this piece of work due to its popularity. So we thought the everyday woman would use it, but also enables us to analyze photos, captions, hashtags, and also comments in response as well. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to choose hashtags with words such as adventure, wild, and outdoors in them. Now, we knew there was an overlap in the essence of them, but we thought that they might yield very different content. So we specifically chose women in adventure, she went wild, and women outdoors. And we used a program called Pictodash, to collect posts over 2 specific weeks. So one in July 2018 and one in January 2019. And these 2 weeks were chosen as they didn't have any religious or commercial holidays in them. And they enabled us to capture data from summer and winter, but also in 2 different hemispheres as well. We downloaded 1,154 posts, and we then analysed them, and we removed posts that weren't in English, just because we weren't able to translate them. We removed posts that were by businesses, and we also removed posts that were no longer publicly available or account had closed. And after that, we had 568 posts. We then employed thematic inductive analysis, and we identified 4 key themes, which are doing, growing, being, and waiting. So to illustrate our findings, I'm going to share some photos, captions, and hashtags with you. So whilst Instagram's terms of use state that public information can be seen, accessed, reshared, and downloaded, what we wanted to do is purposely anonymize our identifiers. So we've hidden their username and their handles as well. So the first theme was doing. So many women, their self-representation on Instagram centered around them participating, so doing the outdoors is what we've called it. So some of the posts emphasize a desire for exploration, so to do something new and different, whether that's for curiosity and novelty. So one woman talked about going in her camper van and exploring in her camper van and trialing out her new camping equipment. But some people are focused exploration on determination. So very often these posts didn't specifically mention exploring in the caption, but it did in the hashtag, such as women who explore. And the explore hashtag was often used alongside other hashtags that reinforced sorry, I'm just checking my timer, that reinforce elements of strength and courage and challenge, so hashtag force of nature, etc. And some women also use certain captions as well, and we kind of thought that they wanted to imply an image of exploration in a harder sense, as opposed to a sort of softer exploration. Other women wanted to use it for connection to someone, to some place, to something. So hashtag home of my heart, hashtag favorite. So they reflected gratitude of that place. Others identified that place, so it's hashtag Colorado, so the place was important to them. And others embedded the people, centered the people as being key to their experience. Activism as well was used, ranging from race, sexual orientation, pollution, women's safety, politics, public access to natural spaces, and they often included hashtags such as do your bit or hashtag diversify outdoors as a call for action to encourage others to be involved. A second theme was growing, as in that women want to express personal growth. So here we've got examples such as building skills, but related to that, some others wanted to inspire other people's personal growth, and they posted motivations and sort of educational pieces, particularly if the women had done solo expeditions and they wanted to encourage others to do the same. And in that instance, they often use hashtag motivation and hashtag inspiration as well. Other individuals posted content about their achievements, so often referring to their dedication to training, for instance, and how their long-term commitment to that activity. And sometimes they added metrics to that, so the height gain or the miles they've swam, and sometimes hashtags such as hashtag summit. And by comparison, some people are more covert. So the posts on the right, whilst they do explain that they had walked 91, they'd climbed 91 summits, the image itself was quite low key. And the third theme is being, and many posts revealed a strong emphasis on being in nature. And for example, some of the most frequently shared posts were around candid expressions about emotion, appreciation about being in the outdoors, whether that's related to an activity, the location, the landscape, the people they're with. There was no negative emotions in these posts. There were only ever positive emotions of their experiences. And others highlighted the restorative and mental well-being benefits of the natural environment and of participating in outdoor activities, and included hashtags such as better than therapy, that kind of thing. And some indicated using the outdoors to escape responsibilities of parenting and for solitude. Curating and creating an identity was quite popular. So using hashtags such as hashtag adventurer, hashtag badass, and having captions like being badass doesn't come easy. But many women wanted to include hashtag no filter because they wanted to reinforce that their desire is authentic and it's natural what they're doing, it's not fake. There was a small handful of women that did post, so on this bottom right, that did have posts that does support more traditional heteronormative stereotypes by maybe presenting themselves in a sexualized way. And sometimes they would include the hashtag for the gram, implying that it was all really a performance for their audience. But on the whole, very few posts did this, and it was limited to the hashtag she went wild. And our final theme is waiting, and that refers to content that was shared during times and moments that are in between the different adventure activities. And here we have, for example, people reminiscing on past experiences using hashtags such as hashtag throwback, hashtag take me back. Others were dreaming of adventure. Others were planning for their next one. Sometimes it was the form of asking for advice from others. Sometimes it was a form of giving advice as well. and others were thinking about sort of the mundane and reprieve elements. So posts seemingly about, you know, walking the dog in the park or watching an adventure film. So leisure activities that enabled them to stay connected to their activity of choice. And some, for example, camped in their garden in between adventures to stay connected. So to summarize our findings, women are not passive, clean, and soft. They're not seeking luxurious forms of adventure as mainstream media portrays women. Instead, women's self-representation centers on active portrayals of doing adventure, emphasizing exploration, strength, and courage, and growing through achievement, self-fulfillment, and overcoming challenges. However, while some women did disrupt that gendered stereotypes, others reinforced it. For example, many women use numbers to demonstrate the intensity or the notoriety of the challenge, such as the grade of the climbing route or the mountain bike route or the altitude that they walked to. So therefore, by what they were doing there, by conquering nature, they were amassing social capital and curating and creating this adventure identity. But despite this, our findings also showed that everyday women, for everyday women, Instagram was providing them with a platform for empowerment, for positive self-portrayal of themselves, for them to give voice to their personal achievements and to communicate their feelings and emotions. Our findings also demonstrated an absence of male partners and or children in the posts as well. Instead, these everyday women were posting about escaping those commitments and enjoying the outdoors for restorative reasons. And this was particularly in relation to being and growing and developing within the outdoors, which was quite, in a way, it was quite ironic because a lot of the posts talked about wanting to escape, but yet by posting in the moment and sharing and looking for likes and comments, they're actually not escaping. They're bringing that virtual audience into their experience, so they're not switching off from everyday lives. But like I said at the beginning, we also identify that there is a significant lag in what the outdoor media and tourism media are presenting and what actually everyday women are presenting. And then just to conclude, the sharing of these experiences on Instagram gives the everyday woman greater visibility in those outdoor landscapes. It enables women to challenge the gender and heteronormative stereotypes that persist in this contemporary media portrayals of women outdoors, and it could have potential implications for increasing participation, not constraining it. Social media recreates the outdoors as a digiplace. Women can engage with both the actual and the virtual experiences of outdoor adventure, and actual physical access to outdoor landscapes is not necessarily required to experience being in the outdoors. And finally, these digital experiences contribute to a new ontology of the outdoors, revealing diverse ways that we can be in the outdoors. Okay, thank you. Anyone got any?
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So we had some messages coming when you were presenting, Adele, about the methodology, about the way you promoted the use of the 3 hashtags on Instagram, or maybe the way you treated non-visual data, for instance. So about this aspect. And also we had some comments about the empowerment of women and the ability for women to post reality via social media and a different way that the commercial brands are doing. So we have a gap between maybe the presentation of these women and the commercial use of these, their images, for instance. So everybody noticed it was really interesting. And could you give more explanation about maybe the methodology and the gap or you don't see between the 2 aspects?
Yeah, I've just have a quick look. So yeah, so thank you, Dr. Bill, about gathering information about the representation of women amongst decision making. Undoubtedly, the decision making in these big organizations, from my experience in the UK, because I'm sorry, my dog's just decided to come and annoy me. My experience in the UK with these big brands and the governing bodies of the outdoor sector are largely men, so they're not necessarily there has been a movement to engage more women in those decisions, and I've been involved in a few different national strategies to encourage gender equity in the outdoors in the UK. So there is a movement towards it, and certainly there is a movement now in their advertising as well. So for example, one of the big leading companies of a magazine is actually, their marketing strategy is 50% men and women now. So there is a movement towards it, which is great. Does the study reflect the role and place of women in society, or do you see specificities related to outdoor tourism practices? Yeah, I would say based on my review of literature, I'm also doing some work at the moment with women entrepreneurs in the outdoor sector, and looking at precarious employment and how gender features in the role of gender in precarious employment, both within the outdoor sector, well, not in the outdoor sector, because sadly there's no literature, that's what I'm working on. But more broadly, it does seem to be quite evident that this gender imbalance and heteronormative is very much embedded in other sectors as well. How did you promote the use of the 3 hashtags? And we didn't actually promote it. So what you do is, it was like $25, and you use PictoChart, you select your hashtags, and we paid $25, and PictoChart downloaded all the posts with those hashtags in for the time span that we wanted. So we didn't need to promote it. That's how we literally got the data. It was really easy. It came in an Excel spreadsheet. It was all there for us. Yes, it does. This new technology can bring humans closer to nature, and it can take you to places that you may never go to. Absolutely. So there's lots of positives. That divide, the debate of both sides, I can see why Stinson says maybe just to ignore that, because it's quite negative, that dichotomy. Do you think the ability for women to post reality via social media can make a difference in the way commercial brands portray them? Yes, I do. I hope commercial brands look at social media posts and realise that maybe the way that they're positioning women isn't a fair representation of what the everyday woman does in the outdoors. I am seeing a difference in the UK for sure. I'm seeing big brands now do use everyday images of everyday women of all colour, shapes, sizes and ages, and also doing like hard activities and leading groups and leading men. So there is starting to see a change, but it's taken a long time to get there. It would be interesting to compare men and women's social media content. Yeah, so I think that was a really cool idea, and I would definitely be up for doing that, and downloading the Instagram data to do that, finding similar hashtag that men might use. Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be really good to get a guy involved in a project like that, so we can hear both sides of the gender debate, to inform both sides. To date, much of the discussion about wilderness and new media has focused on whether digital technology connect people or disconnect. Yeah, the technologies like social platforms as Instagram provide a new means for people to connect with nature. For me, is an example of socio-materiality in the digital world, and will be part of a research agenda. Okay, thanks, Juan. I'll bear that in mind, and thank you everyone else. I think that's oh, was there a trend in the ethnicity of women posting using hashtags? So obviously we can't get the personal data of the people who were posting, but there was, in that activism theme, there was quite a very clear thread linked to Black women outdoors, Black women hiking. And I do think there is a lot of scope to specifically focus on some hashtags related to specific ethnicity, and there is a gap in that in the literature as well. And we have talked about looking at that going forward, but I don't think we've got enough data from what we downloaded for that. But it is worth maybe getting related hashtags related to ethnicity for the same time period, so we can add that to what we've already got. We had to get this, we had a really quick turnaround for this, because we had to submit it to a special edition. And then we wanted to look at the data more critically, and we've been talking about looking at it from ethnicity, or the aesthetics, the composition of the pictures, or through social identity lens or well-being lens. But since we submitted this and got it published, Mike, each of my colleagues have taken it in turns to go on maternity leave. So it's just me at the minute until they start to trickle back in, and then hopefully we'll pick it up, because there was a fair amount of data there, and it took quite a long time as well to analyze it. So it'd be a shame not to try and get a few more papers from it.
Okay, thank you so much, Adele, for this very interesting presentation. We had remarks, comments, and maybe new avenues of research coming out of this interesting project, and maybe comparison between the countries, or between women, between cultural groups, etc. So I see we have some more avenues of research. And
yeah, the hashtags are international, so that was one of the reasons, whereas a previous person had only done it in America. But yes, certainly the cultural comparison would be really interesting.
Okay, so it's very interesting. Thank you so much for this presentation. Zoe, maybe it's time to have some conclusive remarks.
Yes, well, thank you very much to all three presenters. These has been very interesting. With us today, we have Dr. Daryl May, and he is from Sheffield, Hallam, and he will be doing the closing remarks. So, Dr. May.
Hi, thanks. Sorry, I don't think I can turn my video on. It says the host, but I don't think I need to anyway for the closing remarks. Just to kind of summarize the three speakers that we've had today. We start off with Luke Beale, who was talking about kind of using the big data in action. And I am not from a tourism background, so I found that fascinating, some of the challenges he posed in terms of big data being used in action. So thank you to Luke. Followed by Jose Fletcher, who was looking at specifically at Snapchat in terms of a platform to use and motivation and influencing and motivating people to purchase. And I, whilst I was listening to Jose's presentation, was just thinking about my kids and what they must be bombarded with whilst they're using Snapchat and whatever goes on in their universe that I'm not party to. And and then we finished off with Adele, and kind of Adele and I both worked together at Sheffield Hallam, and I can really kind of understand some of the research that she's doing, and some of the images that you showed. I recognise some of the places there from your presentation, Adele, that you showed. So because the session today is based upon kind of the research in the digital area, I thought we could then thank our speakers by doing a digital round of applause. And if you're not sure how to do this, if you go down to the bottom of the thing, you can click on the reactions and do a little clap there. So if we can all give a little clap to the three speakers and thank them for their time. I think we're bang on 4 o'clock. I think the last thing for me to say is to thank you to Natalie and to Zoe for hosting and coordinating the session today, and to let everybody know that there is a further workshop planned, I believe, in February. Is that right? In February, and details on the next workshop will be posted out to participants and shared. Have I covered everything I needed to, Zoe? Is that?
I think you did great. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for doing this on such late notice. I'm glad we got a new partner, and hopefully we'll get more. I mean, this is getting very interesting. So I want to thank you all for coming today and for sharing all this with us, and we'll keep you posted on when's the next one. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Meet
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Nice weekend ahead.